Yeah, and New York doesn't like Philadelphia as a city,
Yeah.
let alone a basketball team, and Philadelphia hates everyone,
Yeah.
including their own team. They're like the only team you can be watching a basketball game, and they'll be home court, and their fans are just booing them if they're not playing well.
Sean?
Because we want our own to do better. We're
Yeah.
not afraid to call people on their bullshit over here.
Yeah, clearly.
Wow.
Welcome to I'd Buy That for $1, a podcast about inexpensive, common, and underappreciated records that are waiting to be rediscovered. I'm your host, Sean Hartman. I've got a heart like a wheel and a head like a hole, but despite all this, I'm still just happy to be here.
Man, I guess you kind of did. I thought you were going to marry the album today with Nine Inch Nails and then the Smashing Pumpkins. I guess maybe that's what you did.
I wanted you to think that's what I was going to do. I'm keeping you on your toes.
You are.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of keeping people on their toes, I'm co-host Jeremy. Co-host Sean, I figured since we're talking about a record of sisters, it's time we reveal our secret.
Oh.
We're doing
I
this
think it's
now?
time.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, go for it.
I mean, everybody already suspects it, and we've been called out a few times, but it's time we just reveal that we're brothers.
It's true. Spiritually, mentally, physically.
Genetically, too, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Cool. That's out of the way.
And there you have why neither of them like the Ren Fair musics.
It's in our genes.
It's all coming together.
And that's the facts.
Yes, we are not lying about Sean Hartman and Jeremy Ruggles being brothers.
And we have never lied on a previous intro or title or profession that we have stated. And all of these episodes continue to reference the film RoboCop.
Yes.
Well, I'm co-host Peter Cook, and I am a self-identified, self-destructive fool.
At least you're honest about it.
You gotta be. You don't want someone to call you out on that.
That's true.
Gotta beat them to the punch on that one.
I had a Alcoholics Anonymous vibe to it. I'm Peter, and I'm a self-destructive fool.
Hi, Peter.
You guys want to go swimming?
Yeah, it's time to get swimming.
I think that'll be in the summer.
Yes. We're not starting with swimming song, Peter.
That's okay. We're gonna feature it, right?
We will feature it, but
Yeah, what are we talking about first?
we're talking Kate and Anna McGarrigle, self-titled debut album, 1976. And I want to start with the insanely brilliant song, Heart Like a Wheel. It was recorded by Linda Ronstadt before they even recorded it, but it was written by Anna McGarrigle. So this is their song. It's not Linda's. But here it is, Heart Like a Wheel, Side A, Track 4.
Some say heart is just like a wheel. When you bend it, you can't mend it. And my love for you is like a sinking ship, and my heart is on that ship out in mid-ocean. They say that death is a tragedy. It comes once and it's over. But my only wish is for that deep, dark abyss. 'Cause what what's the use of living with no true lover? When harm is done, no love can be won. I know it happens frequently. What I can't understand, oh please God hold my hand, why it should have happened to me. And it's only love, and it's only love that can wreck a human being and turn him inside out. That can wreck a human being and turn him inside out.
I've heard this album a few times. I believe I bought it while visiting you in Philadelphia about a year and a half ago, Sean, amongst like 30 or so other records that I picked up.
Yeah, we did do a little bit of record shopping while you were out here, so.
Yeah, just a few.
Real quick.
Yeah. I'm familiar with the song Heart Like a Wheel as well, Linda Ronstadt's version. It was only today that while doing research and listening on headphones, I was sitting on the couch. My wife was sitting next to me doing her own work. And when those harmonies came in on the It's Only Love part that we heard towards the end of that clip, I audibly gasped.
Yeah.
I felt it throughout my entire body, like shivers, and it went right to my soul.
Yeah. This was definitely the song that did it for me too. I got turned on to this from our Roaches episode we did a while back, and they were mentioned for reasons we'll get into again later. But I bought this record, I think I was in Chicago at the time, and was listening to it, and this is a song. It just checked all the boxes. Haunting, minor melody, banjos, singing's good. That's all my boxes right there.
All Jeremy's boxes are checked.
Yeah.
Yeah, if only 10cc had had a banjo, we could have won him over.
They can never win me over.
He's not in love.
I'm not in love. Yeah. So, winning me over caused me to bring this to our classic trio today.
Yeah, there's no guest. We're just going to talk about Kate and Anna McGarrigle. And yeah, I am glad that you made me focus my attention more on this album the last few days. And I mostly was just listening to it in the background at work, so I don't think some of those subtleties really hit me until listening on headphones today.
Yeah, I'd say it's a grower of an album. There is this song, another song we'll play later that really grabbed me right away. But I think a lot of the things in between at first were just kind of yeah, it's pretty good, but didn't resonate as strongly. But the more I listen, the more those in between songs really kind of shake me up.
Yeah, it's a subtle record in a lot of ways. It's not really in your face.
No.
You have to actually devote attention to it for it to really start to sink in.
Yeah, and I think you have to be a words person. That's a strong part of it, is the words and how they are saying. So,
yeah. I mean, both of them were already renowned as songwriters before their debut was released.
True. Yeah, they'd been performing for a while, but I guess should we just start ripping in the bio? We're already there.
Yeah. Let's just get right into it.
All right. Kate and Anna McGarrigle. They were born in Montreal, Canada, but there's a third sister who's a pretty instrumental part of this, Jane McGarrigle, who was their manager for pretty much their entire career, and then also would sing backup vocals on the road with them and on recordings. So
They're even more like the Roaches than I realized.
yeah. It'd be kind of like if Maggie and Terry just kept putting out stuff under their name and Suzy was just kind of working in the background.
Yeah, so the opening song on this is not We Are Kate and Anna and Jane.
It is not. Yeah, so they were born in Montreal, Canada. Jane is the oldest, born in 1941, Anna in 1944, and Kate is the youngest in 1946. Their father was a pianist from Ireland, and their mother was French-Canadian and was a classical violinist herself. So
Musical background.
a musical background before them, and as we will learn, continued well after them as well.
Foreshadowing.
They learned music in a convent. A bunch of nuns taught them how to play piano. Kate and Anna both learned guitar, banjo, accordion, just like a mess of other instruments. They just took strongly to music and then kind of went very different directions in college. Kate went to study chemical engineering and Anna went to art school.
Yeah, those are different directions.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting to me because I was listening to an interview with Jane and Anna. According to them, Kate was the one who wanted to be a singer and was trying to make it in the music world. So that was interesting that the sister who went to art school was not that person. It was the one who went to chemical engineering school.
Yeah, I wouldn't have pegged that.
Yeah. Kate and Anna started playing in the Montreal folk scene with Peter Weldon and Jack Nissenson as the Mountain City Four.
That sounds like some kind of organization, like a group that would do subversive things.
Like running from the law.
Yeah, direct action,
Yeah.
but just a musical group.
Just a musical group. Montreal folk scene. And Kate moved to New York City, Greenwich Village specifically. Anna was kind of along for the ride as far as this music stuff goes, but she stayed in Montreal and was like not full speed ahead like Kate was. And Kate started performing in the Greenwich Village scene, and that's when she met and then married Loudon Wainwright III.
Yeah, big time folky name there.
Kate and Loudon had 2 children, Rufus and Martha.
Might have heard of them. Rufus Wainwright and Martha Wainwright.
Correct. And they have both gone on to become successful musicians in their own right. You know, they're out there working right now. I listened to an interview with Loudon as well, who describes himself as being, you know, kind of young and immature at this time. He's in his early 20s at this point.
I can't imagine Loudon Wainwright III being immature with the subject matter of his songs.
The dead skunk guy.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he kind of acknowledges that he was probably not a great partner at the time or great father. And he was kind of in this rambling lifestyle. And he admitted he felt very threatened by Kate and Anna's kind of ascendance in the music industry. So, yeah, that was a fairly contentious relationship that would end up ending in 1976.
Right around at the time of this album.
Yeah, right at the time of this album. So I want to play another song before we dig in further. I'm going to play Tell My Sister, which is side B, track 2.
Weatherman on the radio threatens rain, maybe snow. like skies. I've gotta go. I'm not a cowboy. I've never been shot. I'm not a convict. I've never been caught. Tell my sister to tell my mother I'm coming home. Sunday morning I boarded a plane, leaving London, England in the rain. Tell my sister to tell my mother I'm coming home alone.
I will admit right out of the gate, this is not a situation. Well, this is a situation where I did not pick songs based on a balanced view of the album. I really leaned into the slower, folkier songs that spoke to me.
Because this is your selection. When it's a guest, you were like, let's do a well-rounded balance of what this album has to offer.
Yeah, I don't usually have quite the emotional investment in our guest records as I might for the ones I'm bringing here.
Yeah. I think I would have picked 2 out of the 4 that you picked if I had been leading the charge on this. But I probably wouldn't have picked that one. So what about that one struck you? I mean, it's not, I don't dislike it by any means, but it wasn't a standout to me.
Oh, I thought it was very immediate feeling to me as far as, I don't know, it seemed kind of bold to have a song called Tell My Sister on like an album that's like a sister's album. It could have been very corny, but I feel instead it's very earnest and touching. And really, I think like the tender side of this is undeniable in this song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we were very focused on lyrically what they were doing with that song.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but notice all the old-timey arrangements on it.
Yeah, and that saxophone, I think, really breaks it up and keeps it from feeling too much of a dirge.
Yeah, it's one I'll have to pay more attention to now that you've highlighted it.
Well, thank you, Peter.
Yeah, that's what we said this album can do, and it's a grower for sure. It's one that you can spend time with, and it reveals itself.
Agreed. Let's get back into the bio. We are leading up to this album's creation. Anna's song, the first one we listened to, Heart Like a Wheel, as was mentioned, was recorded by Linda Ronstadt before they recorded it, and was the title track of her album, Heart Like a Wheel. And then Maria Muldaur also recorded a version of it previous to this album.
Yeah, she had done a number of their songs prior to this album coming out.
Yeah, another artist on our radar for a future episode.
Yeah, I have a feeling she may come up again before this episode is over.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more Maria Muldaur.
As a result of that, they ended up getting signed, Kate and Anna, by Warner Brothers, which led to the recording and release of this album, which they began recording actually in 1974, and then this came out in January of 76, so
Yeah.
they took their time with it. But also at this point, Kate is raising Rufus and Martha. She actually has a special thank you on the back to the people who took care of the kids.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, I hadn't really considered that, yeah, she would have been a mom already by the time this first album comes out.
Yeah. So this album was critically acclaimed pretty much immediately upon release, but wasn't a big chart success. It only charted in Sweden at number 27. If you go and read the reviews of it, people are pretty unanimously for this album, I would say. There's a whole mess of top-notch musicians on this thing. If you look at the back cover of the album, I'd say at least 50% of it is just credits to different people playing different things on each song. One of the more interesting ones I did note, though, to further draw parallels to the Roaches, was Tony Levin, the bass player of King Crimson, is on this thing.
Yeah, I guess this was his thing, appearing on folk albums when he wasn't playing in King Crimson.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's the Robert Fripp producing the Roaches thing, so some odd King Crimson connections.
Yeah. Yeah, I was waiting for you. You didn't find any direct Fripp connection with this album.
I did not.
Okay.
You've got, I don't know, there's like studio dudes like Steve Gadd, Russ Kunkel, who did the sax on that last track. And you got like Bobby Keys is on this, also on sax. There's just so many names, and they're almost all like big name people who've done like 10 other big name things. So if you're interested, go read it yourself. I don't have an hour to name all these people. But as mentioned, Jane McGarrigle is on the album doing backing vocals and also some organ. She's already here on the debut album, and she's with them through the whole career, so I thought that was kind of neat. Another thing kind of neat I found was there were two different producers on this album, and there was kind of a tension between them because one wanted a like classic folky kind of sound, and the other producer wanted to lean more in the pop direction. So that's why you'll kind of hear, it's not like a blend of both. It's like from one song to the next, they kind of lean in different directions. It's a little bit all over in that way, but I think it also kind of helps give it some more depth as far as arrangements and different kinds of sounds. It doesn't get too samey sounding. But yeah, those producers were Joe Boyd and Greg Prestopino.
Yeah, I don't know much about the latter, but the former is someone that I've wanted to talk about on I'd Buy That for $1 for quite some time. So Joe Boyd, his name is synonymous with the emergence of 1960s folk rock, mostly the British folk rock of the 1960s. But Joe Boyd is originally from the United States, and he had promoted concerts while attending Harvard. He's originally from the Boston area. After graduation, he worked as a production and tour manager in Europe, organizing concerts with Muddy Waters, Stan Getz, and Sister Rosetta Tharpe. At the 1965 Newport Folk Festival, he's the one who supervised Bob Dylan's electric debut.
Wow.
Yeah, which we talked about on our Chambers Brothers episode. We didn't really mention Joe's involvement in that, though. When Joe moved to London to work for the UK division of Elektra Records around the mid-1960s, he opened a club called the UFO, and he produced the debut single by UFO regulars, The Pink Floyd, in their song Arnold Lane.
Interesting.
He then created a production and management company called Witch Season, and he would go on to produce the first 8 albums by the incredible string band. The one that we featured on I'd Buy That for $1 previously, Liquid Acrobat As Regards the Air, was actually the first that they made without Joe Boyd producing them.
Oh, yeah, we kind of talked about that shift for them.
Yeah.
From like a production standpoint.
So. Yeah, they went much more electric at that point, too.
Yeah.
He also produced the first 5 Fairport Convention albums. He would also produce subsequent Richard and Linda Thompson albums. He also produced the first 2 Nick Drake albums.
Yeah.
He also worked on the film scores for A Clockwork Orange and Deliverance. He's the one who produced Dueling Banjos. He later would work with REM and 10,000 Maniacs. He was also a producer of the 2018 Aretha Franklin concert film Amazing Grace, and he had been involved in the project going back to 1972 when it was started.
Jesus.
So he's one of those major behind-the-scenes figures.
Yeah, I saw he also produced Vashti Bunyan and Billy Bragg, who are 2 artists I really like. So
yeah, he produced Just Another Diamond Day, that album by Vashti Bunyan.
Yeah.
And a lot of other stuff. He's another one that's just a quick capsule overview of Joe Boyd.
Peter's mini bio.
Yeah.
So back to this album, though, one thing I was kind of intrigued by, this would have been being recorded like right when Kate and Loudon were kind of ending their relationship. And if you listen to the lyrics in Go Leave and Blues in D, those are both very likely inspired by that. I found it kind of interesting that they did Loudon Wainwright's The Swimming song on this album, which is probably my favorite Loudon Wainwright song.
I think that's everyone's favorite Loudon Wainwright song.
It's a pretty undeniable song, but I looked around and it wasn't clear to me what motivated it being on this album. I wasn't sure if it was kind of its own statement about their relationship or something, or her kind of taking his song and like putting her life through that lens or something. I don't know. But I want to play it here for everyone. You can decide for yourself.
Yeah, it's a good version of it. I believe I put this on a previous Patreon mix.
Very nice.
Patreon.com/I'd Buy That podcast.
Welcome to Peter's mini plug. Well, this is going to be side B, track 3, The Swimming Song.
Summer I might have drowned, but I held my breath and I kicked my feet and I moved my arms around, moved my arms around. This summer I swam in the ocean and swam in a swimming pool. Salt my wounds, cleaned my eyes, I'm a self-destructive fool, self-destructive fool. And you know that that's not all. I did the breaststroke and the butterfly and the old Australian crawl, the old Australian crawl. This summer I swam in a public place and a reservoir to boot. At the latter I was informal, at the former I wore my suit, I wore my swimming suit, yeah. Summer I did swan dives and jackknives for you all. And once when you weren't looking, I did a cannonball, did a cannonball. This summer I went swimming, this summer I might have drowned, but I held my breath and I kicked my feet and I moved my arms around, moved my arms around.
That song and Heart Like a Wheel are definitely standouts for me on this album. And one of the main reasons for that, or one of the main appeals to this album for me, is definitely those vocals, especially the good old blood harmony. You just can't beat it, you know? And the arrangement of the backing vocals, I think, is really interesting. It would have been easy to just like double up the harmony for most of the song, but it just comes in these little stabs in interesting ways, and it really adds to the song every time.
Yeah, and they do that folk thing that's just unbeatable. I feel like people can do it a billion times and I'll still like it, where it's that stabby banjo sound mixed with this like smooth singing. It's just good.
Yeah. If it's your thing, it'll land.
It'll just keep landing over and over.
I should probably admit here that overall, this record has been difficult for me to get into. There's elements of it that I like, and there's a couple songs that are starting to work for me, but this is not one that jumped out. As Jeremy has said, it's a grower, so I intend to keep trying, but I think I've said a few times on the podcast that lyric-forward albums are difficult for me to enjoy. The lyrics are not something I usually pay attention to as much. I'm someone who has no inner monologue and very poor mental visualization, which I've learned that people who have those conditions, it's very common for them to not be interested in lyrics, or to hear the lyrics and singing as more of an instrument and not really pay attention to the narrative too much, which is what I tend to do. So this album is not one that jumped out to me immediately, but I intend to try and crack it.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that you gravitate so much toward hip hop, which many would consider to be a very lyrical genre, but I'm guessing that it's more the beats and the samples that you're initially drawn to there.
Yeah, that would be true.
And Sean's just hard. I'm soft. I like this folky stuff.
It's just got to have soul for me. I just like that soul music. It's about that feeling.
Not what they're saying, it's how they're saying it.
Yeah.
I can respect that. But you're wrong.
Takes all sorts.
I would recommend spending more time with this album, though, Sean. It will it'll grow on you. I don't know if it'll be your favorite album, but I think you would find more to like than you're hearing right now.
Well, you know, I've got a nice long road trip coming up next weekend, so that might be the perfect time to really give this album the attention it deserves.
Oh, and you're at the end of that road trip, you're going to see two people named Peter and Jeremy, and that's going to be the first question when you get out of the car.
Yeah.
Rate the Kate and Anna McGarrigle self-titled debut.
On a 7 to 10 scale.
Yeah, and I will be asking Jeremy, as I do every time I see him in person, have you finally decided that Earth, Wind & Fire is the greatest band of all time? He's still holding out on me.
He's really been putting in the time, but just hasn't have an answer yet.
Yeah.
Damn, called out. Well, Kate and Anna McGarrigle would continue recording after this album, but they very rarely played live. Kate was raising the children, obviously. And from what I read, when they did play live, it was like a very humble affair. Like it wasn't stage lights and crazy productions. It was just like kind of raw. And I saw ramshackle was a word applied to it.
They're like a punk band.
Yeah, kind of like just a raw energy. Their fifth album in 1980, Entre la Hennessy et la Sagacie, maybe, is an album they recorded entirely in French and was actually one of their most successful and acclaimed albums.
Our apologies to all our French listeners.
Yeah, to the English listeners out there, that roughly translates to Between Youth and Wisdom.
Yeah. Well, that was something I was considering, just even listening to the way they affected their voices in the last song. They were from Montreal, where French is the main language.
Yeah.
And they are definitely affecting a more of an Americana vocal style on much of this album.
Yeah, they were considered when they were playing around Montreal to be part of the Anglophile scene. But yeah, as mentioned, their mother was French Canadian. They clearly know French. They're from Montreal, so a lot of that's baked into who they are.
Yeah, there's at least one song on this album that's in French.
Yeah. They also, the album from 1980 that I butchered the title of, in the U.S., it was released as French Record, so that
Wow.
other Americans wouldn't butcher the title.
Should have just said, yeah, their 1980 album French Record.
I should have, yeah. They continued recording after that, and in 1998, released an interesting album called The McGarrigle Hour that has all three of the sisters. Loudon is back and on it. Martha and Rufus Wainwright, the children of Loudon and Kate, are on it, along with Anna's husband, Dane Lincoln, and their two children, Sylvan and Lily Lincoln, who are also musicians. So it's just this wild family of musicians.
Yeah, and there is a familial connection to the Roaches.
Yeah, because immediately after Kate McGarrigle's relationship ended with him, well, marriage ended, Loudon ended up being with Suzy Roach of the Roaches for 9 years and had a kid with her as well.
Yeah.
And Loudon said, like, sometimes they would, like, all be together in these, like, big family gatherings.
Yeah.
Which seems pretty wild to me.
Yeah. This folk dynasty.
Yeah. Kate would perform with Rufus and Martha often, and Kate and Anna kept recording and playing shows until Kate passed away in 2010 of sarcoma, which is a rare type of cancer. Jane and Anna went on to release a book together called Mountain City Girls in 2016. When I listened to the interview with Anna and Jane, and they were talking about, you know, the family dynamics and them beating up on each other as sisters growing up. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. But they were promoting that book. Kate and Anna were appointed to the Order of Canada in 1993, which is Canada's second highest honor, and also received a Lifetime Achievement Award from SOCAN in 2006, which is the Society of Authors, Composers, and Music Publishers of Canada. So they're kind of Canadian royalty.
I'm glad they've received some recognition.
Yep, they've received some recognition, but not enough. That's why I brought them here today.
So how long until this record reaches the same value as the Roaches album?
Oh,
Now they've put out a record store day reissue of that. It's almost $40.
Yeah.
Oh,
And how long do we have to wait before Pitchfork steals our episode and writes an article about this?
ooh, called out.
we got our eye on you, Pitchfork. We see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we did the Roaches album, we were kind of on the border about doing it because at the time it was like $7 to $8 median on Discogs, which at the time we were doing
We were trying to stay
5 or less.
Yeah, we were trying to be strict as we could.
Yeah, and it was like a little bit over. We're like, I don't know.
But I had just found it in Grand Rapids for $5 VG plus, so we were like, all right, let's just do that one.
We'll go and get this one now as you're hearing this before the price jumps up and everybody realizes it's great. If you don't get there in time, we'll turn to Sean to say, Sean, now what do we do? Now what do we get?
You know, that's a pretty good question, and I think I might have a pretty good answer for it. First recommendation, previously featured album Chris Williamson, The Changer and the Changed from 1975.
Oh yeah, that's a good one, and that's an album that too I could see rising in value.
Yeah, it's kind of got the backstory for it.
Maybe not quite as many copies of that one pressed.
Yeah, true. And it's that's another grower, I'd say, that really shines as like a tender album.
True. Yeah. Another previously featured album going a little bit further back in the podcast, but one that I like to revisit every once in a while, Janis Ian, Between the Lines from 1975.
Oh yeah, it was very early that we featured that album. When I was listening to this on Spotify at work, and then it would play similar stuff once the album was over, I felt like every time there was something exceptionally good that I had to click off the screen and see what was playing on Spotify. It was without fail Janis Ian every time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh yeah, I really like Janis Ian.
Major talent. And then, as promised, here's the Maria Moldauer recommendation, talking her 1974 album, Waitress in a Donut Shop.
Which features a song by Anna McGarrigle and is produced by Joe Boyd.
There you go.
Wow. Is this one of them that the McGarrigle sisters sing backup on too?
Oh, I didn't go that deep. That's like, you said 73, Sean?
74.
74. So that's a...
Well, might have been. 'Cause
Yeah.
They sang backups for her. I saw they sang backups, with Loudon initially. Linda Ronstadt, Richard and Linda Thompson, Marianne Faithfull, who we just did an episode on pretty recently, Joan Baez, Nick Cave. So they also did a lot of like studio work as background singers.
Nice.
Well, I wanted to throw a recommendation on there
Yeah.
related to the Roaches. You know, that first album has blown up and become stupid valuable, but their other albums are really good too. Nerds is really good. There's the Maggie and Terry Roach album that I just bought the other day for $4.
Mm-hmm.
Seductive Reasoning. That is a fantastic album. So you can just go get the other Roaches albums and they're very good.
Yeah. Yeah. All the other ones are still cheap, I've noticed.
Yeah.
I have the first 3, and I think all of them I have purchased for $5.
Yeah. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Good tip.
Before we get out of here, I did have a quick installment of For the Record where we set the record straight on misinformation stated in previous episodes. In our Diodato 2 episode, we said that Diodato had worked with Quincy Jones. That is not quite accurate. In 1970, Quincy Jones had teamed up with the Ray Brown Orchestra to do a funk version of a soundtrack that Diodato had worked on with Antonio Carlos Jobim called The Adventurers. So they kind of like reimagined this soundtrack that Diodato had worked on, and that's what we were thinking of.
Well, okay. You get a pass in my book, but
Okay.
thank you for clarifying.
It's important. Other than the intros, we got to keep our facts straight here.
That's true. We're not trying to spread more misinformation out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Isn't that right, brothers?
that's right. And you know, speaking of important facts, I know Jeremy didn't have time to go through the whole list of players on this album, but I refuse to end this episode without noting that my dude Hugh McCracken is on one track of this album.
Oh, God.
True.
You got a Hugh head here. We can't
Yeah.
overlook that.
No.
Yeah, there's a lot of little... Start looking through those credits. There's a lot of names where it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, well, and then probably also if you just start looking at who have recorded songs of the McGarrigle sisters, what, as you mentioned, what they've appeared on, they're in the culture.
Yeah. Go and get it now. That's all I got to say on them for now. I want to leave you with the song Blues in D, which is still pretty folky, but does in fact kind of add some bluesy edge to things. And as previously mentioned, was likely inspired by Kate and Loudon's relationship. This is a Kate McGarrigle song.
All right. Well, if there's nothing left to say, then we can end this. Thank you for listening to I'd Buy That for $1. Once again, if you would like more content, you can go over to patreon.com/I'd Buy That podcast, pledge your support, and get some cool bonus content in return. My name is Peter Cook.
My name's Jeremy Ruggles.
And I'm Sean Hartman.
And I'm Jeremy Ruggles, brother of Sean Hartman.
Just the facts.
Just the facts, ma'am.
Oh, wow. Now you're saying it.
Blues in D, Side A, Track 3. Farewell.
My daddy came to see me. He came dressed in black. He said, Katie dear, yeah, I know I want you back. Oh no.